I mean, we're on the topic of like support systems. Let's assume that you are your own support system, right? And if you could tell, like, if the Sarah of today could tell the Sarah of 19 years old on how to prepare better for this journey that you embarked on, so that maybe you would see a little bit more success, or maybe you would have enjoyed the process a little bit more, what would you tell her?
Well, that would take another podcast.
Okay, man, if you could summarize.
If I could summarize, the biggest thing I would tell her is to spend more time in the Word, and that's probably not the answer that many of our listeners would want to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that truly, from the bottom of my heart, is the biggest thing I would tell her. It really would be. I know that's not the answer you want to hear, because
no, and when you say the Word, as in your faith, right? Your faith. Yeah.
I mean, just I think it's something about, and I'll give you a bit more of a reason why I say what I say, and maybe contextualize it for non-Christian, because I'm sorry to whoever's listening out there, if you're not religious or whatever, like this is really not meant to be like a evangelistic spiel, or
that's really okay. This is your time. This is your time. It's fine. Yes.
I think if I can draw it back to a larger picture, I would explain it. And then really I come back to really not being your typical Christian, because I'm so worldly in so many ways, but there's something about the denseness of the Bible text. And fun fact, which I've also never shared before in any interview, one thing that really gets me happy in my happy space is going into and studying the ancient Hebrew texts of the Bible in their original form, and drawing out the meanings from those texts into the verses that are in English. So basically,
you can understand Hebrew?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Wow. All right.
So and all of that was really, I mean, all of this has been like through personal study and part inspired by seeing my pastor preach and always draw from the Hebrew, and not just the Hebrew, the ancient Hebrew. So the reason why I say spend more time in the Word, there's something about sitting down and meditating on and unpacking a verse or a sentence, and I mean, it's widely known, whether anyone's religious or not, that the Bible is one of the greatest literary texts that we have out there, for how it's written, its prose, its style, the linguistics, the semiotics behind it as well, the metaphors used, etc., etc. But when you unpack it back into the interlinear, which is the origin, which is a comparison, word for word comparison of the English translation and the original Hebrew. So that's called the interlinear Bible. When you compare it in the interlinear, and you unpack a word, for example, and you go down to the root of the Greek or the Hebrew, you really see a word for its life and its purpose in the context of a larger picture. And that for me somehow has always really helped zone my mind into what I take as the word for me in that season of life, whatever I'm reading. And whether you're religious or not, I think there are the world and the energy and all its people thereof, and all our connections are made of energy. Yeah. And even though we are speaking by a conference right now, for example, our energies in the metaphysical realm are intertwining, and when you go into a text and you read the energy of that text, right, and you merge your energy with that text, in the right frame of the gospel of salvation, and not from a frame of doom and gloom, for example, you really meet in your soul this higher energy that lifts you up.
Yeah.
And when you look at a journey as crazy as mine or as impossible as mine, there has to be, and there had to be many instances of meeting energies that would lift you up, because it was so easy to go down in so many times of my career. So if you go back to the Bible and framed in the right way of the gospel of salvation and of hope and of love and of peace, that is what has lifted up my spirits. And so many times when I was feeling really down and out, and you asked about the true north, a lot of what helped me reframe my perspectives was going back to the word and just unpacking a simple verse and seeing how that verse showed me the love of God again afresh, and
Right.
how that love gave me strength to stand up, arise again, and go. Proverbs, there is this verse that says something like, a righteous man can fall 7 times, but he stands up 8. Something along those lines. I paraphrase, but again, it's again meeting the energy that lifts you up, that reminds you of a higher purpose for which you are on this earth for.
I love it. That's awesome. So, for all those out there, I think to contextualize this, and if I were to rephrase it outside of the context of religion to try and get a learning point, would it be just to have a guide in your life that can kind of unpack your life and the challenges, the triumphs, etc., so that you don't have to spend your time figuring it out on your own, because there's something else bigger than you or maybe outside of you that helps unpack and decipher the meaning to whatever it is you're going through.
I wouldn't. I recognize how difficult framing that is in a non-religious or non-faith space. I do. I'm sorry. I even brought it up. I wouldn't say guide. I wouldn't say guide, because there are so many variations of that out there, and guides in the wrong lenses can also pull you down.
Right.
So which is why I was very, very careful to contextualize that or contextualize that faith search or quest in a positive light, because there are parts of Christianity that are super doom and gloom. It's people walking on the streets telling you you're going to go to hell if you don't believe in Jesus. I mean, I think that's embarrassing. Honestly, that's not the love of God, and that's not cool at all. Full stop. It's not respectful. It's not my thing. So coming back to the concept of a guide, I think I would really frame it as being very particular and picky about who you let your heart and your ear and your eye gate to, who you open your ear, your heart, and your eye gate to. And I knew this already at 19, but I mean, I was more careful with that, with the way I spoke, because it was everyone around me knew me as Sarah of badminton, who plays badminton, blah blah. And then suddenly, like, I have this crazy, pulsating desire to play professional tennis and go get ranked on the WTA and just go crush it there and kill it there. And obviously everyone's like, what on earth, man? Like, so had I spoken and not exercised discretion with my mouth gate and just spoke to anyone about it, I would be freaking crashed by now. And I really was crashed with the very few people that I spoke it to, because I was not discerning enough. So I would be more discerning in who I opened my mouth gate to. That's why I would advise the 19-year-old Sarah. I would be more discerning with who I look to for advice. And sometimes they're not even living people, Sometimes it's just a search of a narrative that you already know in your heart is. It's the search of reading up the autobiographies of Abraham Lincoln, of Oprah Winfrey, of Alibaba, Jack Ma, and seeing the incredible crazy odds that they went through to manifest their dreams, or their vision in their soul. And you want to surround yourself with people like that when you're aiming for audacious, crazy goals. You don't want to surround yourself with losers who complain about the government, or they complain about how prices are rising or whatever. I have no time to think about how something is going to be increased by 50 cents when I'm going to think about how I'm going to raise the next $500,000.
Yeah.
That sort of difference in perspective is really important. It's not to say that the 50 cents is not not important. I know you will not misunderstand me there, but what I'm really pointing out is the macroness with which we can append and attend our spirits to. The same thing for the year gate. Our sense of imagination is strangely linked to what goes in through our ears, through our sense of hearing. So if you're hearing doom and gloom whole day, COVID this, COVID that, this is how you get the disease. I mean, it weakens your chi, it weakens your immunity, it weakens your consciousnness, and it tunes it to what you can get instead of how to, for example, increase your immunity, or how happy thoughts bolster your immunity instead. So it's a very conscious choice of where we want to direct our energies towards, and it is very easy for the human condition, as we all are subject to attend to the old ways, to go back into old patterns. But again, this is where reprogramming the brain. This is where making a conscious choice not to fall back into that is necessary. And I mean, I'm sorry, I'm talking so much, but
No, not at all. Yeah.
but if there's one thing you might ask yourself, whoever's listening out there, how do I reprogram my brain, man? How do I make it better or not fall back into the old patterns? I'll give you two really strong tips that have helped me tremendously. The first is this thing, or this concept called myelination. And basically, myelination is a process that happens within the brain around your neurons. We have billions, trillions of neurons in our brain, right? And every neuron, when we have a thought process that connects from A to B, for example, it is an electrical wave or pulse that goes through that neuron, through a sheath, to get to point B. So that the electrical wave and the process of creating that wave it's like a sheath that goes around the neuron, and that process is called myelination. I'm probably not doing it justice, but that's how I've come to understand it. Myelination can be for positive or for negative. That's why depression is so hard to come out of, because your brain has been used to that memory, that myelination for so much is stuck in negative myelination. It's like muscle memory. It's like trying to erase a bad habit. Positive myelination also happens. So it's really a matter of, do you want to make positive or negative myelination? The strongest way to myelinate your brain in the right way is through writing, the act of physical writing. And that's why I come back to, for example, what would I have told the Sarah of 19 years old, right? I would have told her to go back into the Word, because when you do that, you sit down and you really study it. You really write down the verse. You really write down the meanings that you find out. You figure out, it becomes a puzzle, and you put the pieces together and you see a beautiful picture at the end of it. But that process of writing is what wires your brain to attend to that higher energy. And that's one very powerful way to reprogram your brain. You can write in your diary, I had a shit day today, my boss is an a-hole, I don't understand why the public transport is so slow, blah, blah, blah. And the act of writing it in that lens and in that frame is as powerful, and it sticks to your brain. So it is really your choice how you want to see that, and the frames with which you want to myelinate yourself, your brain when you write. So that's the first thing that can really help to reprogram your brain. The second thing that can really help reprogram your brain is this thing. I just learned it from one of my coaches. is to reprogram negative memories. And how do you reprogram negative memories in a way that do not trigger you? Everyone has trauma, whether to different degrees or that really hurt them in the past. I mean, we go back into that memory and we can still cry, or we can still feel really moved from it. And and he taught me. He learned this from somewhere else as well. I wish I had the name of the course, but I don't have it with me right now. Was to go back into that memory, feel the trigger, feel the sense of betrayal or hurt, and to live it in full flesh, Technicolor, right? And obviously, you feel it, you feel a physiological response to that trigger and that memory, and you're doing this with your eyes closed, right? So you feel that memory, and then you switch from that to the present moment by doing something that you can feel. So the example he gave me was to tap. So you can feel the pain or feel your fingers on your skin. You can feel, I couldn't really feel myself tapping because I was so into the memory. So I ended up pinching myself because I wanted to feel the present moment.
Yeah.
So you do that for about 10 to 15 seconds. And then after you do that physical engagement, then you go into an extremely happy memory. Whatever it is, maybe it's your nephew laughing at you, maybe it's you hugging your mom, maybe it's a happier time with that person in particular, whatever, right? A really happy memory, and you live in that moment, and you absorb that happiness, and you let it do to you as what that negative memory did to you. And it's natural that the negative memory will have a stronger hold on you, which is why you do the contrast. Yeah. You have the negative memory, you do the contrast, the feeling, the touching, whatever, for 10, 15 seconds, and then you go to a very happy memory. And after you're in that happy memory, you come back to the old memory. And I kid you not, Nick, I just tried this last week and the week before that. As in when I had time. And everyone has very painful memories. And when I went back to my painful memory, the sense of distance that you feel is palpable. And
wow.
It's really strange. So then you go back into the sad memory, right? And you live it and you relive it and you feel the pain and you feel and you feel everything else that comes with it. And then again, you do the 15 seconds, the pinching, the tapping, the stroking, whatever, right? Just to bring you back into the present. And then you go back into the happy memory again. And you do that loop for about, 3-4 times. I felt the distance already from the second round. So what that does is it helps you break away that connection to, if you think about it, you're myelinating in some way, right?
Yeah.
Or you're remyelinating in some way. So you're really rewiring your circuits so that when you go back to that memory, and my coach told me, so when I go back to that memory with the ex-girlfriend or with the ex-girlfriend, I don't feel nothing no more. I don't feel that pain no more. And it's really weird, but it works. So I'm really excited with that second that second technique. But yeah, those are two ways to reprogram your brain.